The sky above Prime turned dark with enemy ships. Ambassador stood at the window of the colony's main building and watched them come. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They fell through the clouds like black rain, blocking out the sun and filling the air with the deep hum of their engines. The Dominion had finally come. Was old, even by the standards of his species. His gray skin had turned pale with age, and his 4 eyes had grown weak over the years. But he did not need good eyes to see what was happening. The colony was about to die. Prime was a small world on the edge of known space. The Alliance had built a mining colony here 6 years ago. 30,000 people lived in the settlement now. Scientists who studied the strange crystals found deep underground. Miners who pulled valuable metals from the rock. Families who had come looking for a new life away from the crowded core worlds. None of them were soldiers. The Alliance was made up of 3 species who had given up war long ago. They believed in peace, in talking, in finding solutions without violence. They had no real army. They had no weapons worth mentioning. And now the Dominion was here. The first explosions came from the orbital defense platforms. Watch the flashes of light in the upper atmosphere as the platforms died one by one. They had built them thinking they would never be needed. They were old and weak. The Dominion ships destroyed them in less than an hour. "Ambassador," said a young aide who rushed into the room. Her voice was shaking. "The shields are failing. The Dominion ground forces are landing outside the settlement." Closed his eyes. He had hoped this day would never come. He had spent his whole life believing that peace was possible, that no species would be cruel enough to attack innocent civilians. He had been wrong. "Get everyone underground," he said quietly. "Into the bunkers. Tell them to bring food, water, medicine. Tell them to bring their children and hold them close." The aide ran to deliver the message, stayed at the window and watched the enemy land. The Dominion was the most feared power in the galaxy. They were conquerors. They had destroyed 17 species over the centuries. Some they enslaved. Some they simply killed. They took what they wanted and left nothing behind but ash and bones. No one knew why they had come to Prime. Perhaps they wanted the crystals. Perhaps they wanted the metals. Perhaps they simply wanted to remind the galaxy that they could take whatever they wished. By nightfall, 50,000 Dominion soldiers surrounded the colony. Their camps stretched in every direction, filling the rocky plains with tents and vehicles and weapons. Their ships circled overhead like hungry birds waiting for their meal. The colony's defenders numbered only 2,000. Most of them were not real soldiers. They were security officers, engineers, volunteers who had picked up weapons for the first time in their lives. They stood at the walls and watched the enemy army and knew they had no chance. Walked through the underground bunkers that night. He saw families huddled together in corners. He saw children crying. He saw old people praying to gods they hoped would listen. He saw fear in every face he passed. He stopped at the communications center and sent a message to every allied system. He told them what was happening. He begged for help. He promised anything, everything, if only someone would come. The answers came back slowly over the next few hours. Each one was the same. "We are sorry, our ships are too far away. We cannot reach you in time. We grieve for your loss. There is nothing we can do. May your spirits find peace in the next world." Sat alone in the dark room and felt hope die inside him. No one was coming. No one could help. The Alliance had believed too much in peace, and now they would pay the price for that belief. Then one more message arrived. It came from a planet called Earth. Had heard of humans before. They were a new species, young and strange. They had joined the galactic community only 5 years ago. Most other species thought of them as primitives who had gotten lucky. They were small, weak, and their technology was not impressive. Almost ignored the message. What could humans do? There was 42 light years away. Even with the fastest ships, they would need weeks to arrive. By then, everyone on Prime would be dead. But something made him open the message anyway. It was short, only 6 words. "Hold your position, we're coming." Stared at the screen for a long time. He wanted to believe it. He wanted to hope. But hope was a dangerous thing. It could break your heart worse than despair ever could. He decided not to tell anyone about the message. It would only give them false hope. The humans could not possibly arrive in time. No one could. Outside, the Dominion army waited for morning. They were in no hurry. They knew the colony was trapped. They knew no help was coming. They would enjoy this conquest as they had enjoyed all the others before. But somewhere across the galaxy, human ships were already moving. And they were moving faster than anyone thought possible. Commander looked at the colony through his viewing screen and smiled. He was a tall creature, covered in thick scales that shone like polished metal. His eyes were yellow and cold, like the eyes of a snake. He had commanded Dominion armies for 30 years. He had conquered 12 worlds. He had never lost a battle. This conquest would be easy. There were weak creatures. They did not know how to fight. They would surrender or they would die. Either way, the colony would belong to the Dominion before the week was over. Pressed a button on his command chair. His voice went out across all frequencies, reaching every corner of the colony below. "People of Prime," he said, "I am commander of the Dominion fleet. You are surrounded. You are outnumbered. You have no hope of rescue. I give you 12 hours to surrender. Open your gates and lay down your weapons. If you do this, I promise you will be treated fairly. You will become servants of the Dominion, but you will live." He paused for effect. He enjoyed these moments. "If you do not surrender in 12 hours, we will attack. We will show no mercy. We will kill every man, woman, and child in your colony. Your bodies will be left in the dirt for the animals to eat. Your names will be forgotten. This is your only warning." The transmission ended, leaned back in his chair and waited. He expected the surrender to come within the hour. They always surrendered. They were cowards at heart. But deep inside the colony, someone was not listening to it all. Lieutenant Ho stood in a small room filled with officers. He was the only human on the planet. He had been sent here as part of an exchange program, a way for Earth and the Alliance to learn about each other. He was supposed to observe, to report, to help improve relations between the species. He was not supposed to fight. Humans were new to the galaxy. They were supposed to be peaceful. They were supposed to be harmless. The officers were arguing with each other. Some wanted to surrender. Some wanted to fight. Some were crying. Their leader, an old officer named, looked ready to collapse from fear. "We cannot win," said. "You heard the Dominion commander, 50,000 soldiers. We have 2,000. Our weapons are old. Our walls are weak. We should surrender and hope for mercy." "Mercy?" said another officer. "The Dominion does not know mercy. They will make us slaves. They will work us to death in their mines. They will take our children and turn them into soldiers for their armies." The argument went on and on. No one could agree on anything. No one had a plan. Ho listened quietly. He was 26 years old, young by human standards. He had brown eyes and short black hair. He was not big or strong. He did not look like a warrior. But Ho had grown up on Earth. He had studied the history of his species. He knew what humans could do when they had no choice. Finally, he spoke. "We need to prepare the defense." Everyone turned to look at him, frowned. "What do you mean? We cannot defend against the Dominion. It is impossible." "Nothing is impossible," Ho said. "We have 12 hours. That is enough time to prepare. We need to fortify we need to place the best fighters at the gates. We need to give weapons to everyone who can hold one, even the scientists, even the miners. Everyone fights or everyone dies." They stared at him like he was crazy. "You want us to fight," said. "We are not warriors. We do not know how to fight." "Then I will teach you," Ho said. "I will show you how to aim. I will show you how to take cover. I will show you how to stand when everything inside you wants to run." "But why?" asked. "You are not one of us. This is not your planet. Why do you want to fight?" Ho thought about the question for a moment. Then he looked up at the ceiling, as if he could see through the rock and metal all the way to the stars beyond. "Because I sent a message to my people," he said, "and my people always come for their own. I just need to keep everyone alive until they get here." Shook his head. "You're is 42 light years away. Even if your people wanted to help, they could not possibly arrive in time." Ho smiled. It was a strange smile, full of something that did not understand, something that might have been called faith. "You don't know humans very well," he said. "When one of us is in danger, we find a way. We always find a way." The officers looked at each other. They did not believe him. They thought he was foolish, maybe even mad, but they had no other hope. They had nothing else to hold on to. So they followed him. For the next 12 hours, Ho worked without rest. He walked through every tunnel and corridor in the colony. He found the best places to fight. He built walls from rubble and metal. He organized the defenders into small groups and told each group where to go and what to do. He found weapons in old storage rooms. He found explosives in the mining warehouses. He taught scared civilians how to shoot, how to hide, how to survive. Ambassador watched him work. The old diplomat did not understand what drove this young human, but he saw something in Ho's eyes that he had never seen before, something that would not break, something that would not bend. "Do you really believe your people will come?" asked him. Ho stopped working and looked at the ambassador. His face was tired, but his eyes were bright. "Yes," he said, "I do." "Why?" Ho thought about his family back on Earth. He thought about his friends, his teachers, the soldiers he had trained with. He thought about 10,000 years of human history, filled with war and suffering and survival. "Because that is who we are," he said. "We do not leave people behind, ever." Outside the walls, the 12 hours were almost over. The Dominion army was getting ready to attack. But somewhere in the darkness of space, human ships were flying faster than anyone had ever flown before. And they were getting closer every second. The 12 hours ended at midnight. Commander stood on the bridge of his ship and looked down at the colony. No surrender had come. The foolish had decided to fight. He almost felt sorry for them. Almost. "Begin the attack," he said. The Dominion army moved forward like a wave of darkness. 50,000 soldiers marched toward the walls. Their weapons glowed with deadly light. Their vehicles rolled across the rocky ground, crushing everything in their path. Above them, gunships flew in circles, ready to rain fire on anyone who tried to run. The first shots hit the outer walls. Stone and metal exploded into dust. Defenders fell back, screaming and dying. Some tried to fight. They fired their old weapons at the enemy, but the Dominion soldiers kept coming. For every one that fell, 10 more took their place. Inside the colony, Lieutenant Ho ran from position to position. He shouted orders. He helped wounded fighters. He fired his weapon at any enemy he could see, but he knew it was not enough. The Dominion was too strong. The walls were falling. The defenders were dying. "We cannot hold," shouted over the noise of battle. "The eastern wall is gone. The enemy is inside the colony." Ho looked up at the sky. It was dark and empty. No stars, no ships, nothing. Where were they? Where were his people? "Fall back to the inner buildings," he ordered. "Everyone to the bunkers, protect the civilians." The defenders ran. They retreated through the streets, fighting and dying as they went. The Dominion soldiers followed them, killing everything they saw. Bodies lay in the streets. Blood ran like rivers. The smell of smoke and death filled the air. Ambassador stood at the entrance to the main bunker. He watched the battle with horror in his old eyes. This was the end. He had hoped for just a moment that the humans might really come, but hope was a lie. No one was coming. No one could save them. Then he saw something strange. It started as a shimmer in the sky, like the air itself was bending and twisting. It was small at first, barely visible, but it grew larger and larger until half the sky seemed to dance with strange light. The Dominion soldiers stopped fighting. They looked up, confused. Their sensors were going crazy. Their computers could not understand what they were seeing. Commander stared at his screens. What is that? What is happening? His officers had no answer. Then the thunder came. It was not the thunder of storms. It was deeper, louder, more powerful. It shook the ground. It shook the walls. It shook the hearts of everyone who heard it. And then the sky split open. 47 human tore through the clouds. They came down so fast that their hulls glowed red from the heat. They came down so steep that they seemed to be falling more than flying. They came down in a way that no species in the galaxy thought was possible. The humans had jumped their ships directly into the planet's gravity well. They had skipped the normal approach paths. They had ignored every rule of safe. They had done something that should have killed them all. But humans did not care about what was supposed to be impossible. The first hit the ground in the center of the colony. It did not slow down gently like normal ships. It crashed into the dirt with tremendous force, sending dust and rocks flying in every direction. Before it even stopped moving, the rear ramp was already opening. Human soldiers poured out of the ship like water from a broken dam. They wore black armor that covered them from head to toe. They carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. They moved with speed and skill that seemed almost unreal. More landed, to the east, to the west, to the north and south. They formed a ring around the colony, blocking the Dominion advance. From each ship, more soldiers came running. The leader of the humans was a woman named Captain. She was small, even by human standards. Her face was hidden behind a dark helmet, but her voice was clear and strong as it came through every communication device in the colony. All forces, this is Captain of Earth's 4th Rapid Response Battalion. Stay behind cover. We're taking over now. Ho heard the voice and felt tears in his eyes. He had believed, he had hoped, and his people had come. The first Dominion soldiers tried to attack the human landing zone. They fired their weapons at the black-armored figures pouring from the ships. The humans fired back. The Dominion soldiers died. Captain led the first charge herself. She ran forward without fear, her weapon blazing. Behind her came 200 soldiers, moving as one. They hit the Dominion lines like a hammer hitting glass. Dominion soldiers fell by the dozen. Their armor could not stop human weapons. Their formations could not survive human tactics. They had never fought humans before. They did not know what they were dealing with. Commander watched from his ship and felt something he had not felt in 30 years. Fear. Send reinforcements, he shouted. All units focus fire on the humans, destroy them. But the humans were not easy to destroy. They moved like shadows. They fought like demons. They never stopped, never slowed, never hesitated. When one fell, another took their place. When they ran out of ammunition, they picked up enemy weapons. When their weapons broke, they fought with knives and fists. The night that had begun with death and despair was changing. The defenders, hiding in their bunkers, could hear the sounds of battle shifting. They could hear the Dominion screaming now. They could hear human voices shouting in a strange language, words that sounded almost like singing. They did not know it, but those words were old battle cries from Earth. Words that humans had shouted for thousands of years, whenever they went to war. Words that meant, we are here, we are fighting, and we will not stop until we win. The Dominion had conquered 17 species. They had fought hundreds of battles across the galaxy. They had never lost. Tonight, they were learning what fear felt like. Sergeant 1 led his squad through the eastern district of the colony. There were 12 humans in his team. They faced over 200 Dominion soldiers who had broken through the walls. It did not matter. One was 35 years old. He had been a soldier since he was 18. He had fought in wars on Earth, on Mars, on 3 different moons. He had scars on his body and ghosts in his memories. But when his boots hit the ground on Prime, all of that went away. There was only the mission: save the civilians, kill the enemy. "Move in pairs," he shouted. "Cover each other, don't let them breathe." His squad obeyed without question. They worked like a machine, each part supporting the others. They used buildings for cover. They used shadows to hide. They hit the Dominion from angles the enemy did not expect. The Dominion soldiers were bigger than humans. They were stronger too. Their scales could stop small weapons. Their claws could tear through metal, but none of that helped them now. Humans did not fight fair. They fought to win. One threw a grenade into a group of 10 Dominion soldiers. While they were stunned, his squad moved in and finished them. Then they moved to the next group, and the next, and the next. 20 minutes later, the Eastern District was clear. In the northern sector, Private faced a different problem. A Dominion armored walker had crashed through the colony walls. It was a massive machine, 3 times the height of a human, with weapons that could destroy buildings in a single shot. Was 19 years old. She was small and thin. She looked like she should be in school, not on a battlefield. But her eyes were cold and steady as she watched the walker move through the streets, destroying everything in its path. "Someone needs to stop that thing," said the soldier next to her. "I'll do it," said. She did not wait for permission. She ran from her cover, moving fast and low. The walker's sensors could not track something so small moving so quickly. She reached the machine's leg and started climbing. The walker's pilot noticed too late. He tried to shake her off, but held on with fingers like iron. She climbed higher, past the legs, past the body, until she reached the joint where the main gun connected to the hull. She took an explosive from her belt. She armed it. She placed it in the joint and jumped. The explosion ripped the walker's gun off completely. The machine stumbled, lost balance and crashed to the ground. Was already running before it hit. 3 seconds later, her squad destroyed what was left of it. But the thing that shocked the Dominion most was not the human skill in battle. It was something else, something they had never seen before. Corporal was fighting in the southern district when a plasma bolt hit his left shoulder. The pain was terrible. His arm went dead. Blood poured from the wound. Any Dominion soldier would have retreated, would have called for help, would have stopped fighting. Kept going. With his good arm, he grabbed a young civilian who had been caught in the crossfire. He dragged the alien to safety, moving through enemy fire as if the plasma bolts were rain and he was just taking a walk. He reached a shelter, placed the civilian inside, and then went back to the battle. He fought for 2 more hours with one arm. Medic Bin was even crazier. She was a healer, not a fighter. Her job was to save lives, not take them. But when she saw a child lying wounded in the middle of a firefight, she did not think about rules or danger. She ran straight through the open ground. Plasma bolts flew past her head. Bullets hit the dirt at her feet. She did not slow down. She reached the child, covered the little girl with her own body, and started treating the wounds right there, while the battle raged around her. A Dominion soldier tried to shoot her. Before he could pull the trigger, 3 human soldiers shot him from 3 different directions. Bin never even looked up. She was too busy saving a life. Commander watched all of this from his ship. He watched his soldiers fall. He watched his walkers burn. He watched his careful plans collapse into chaos. "What are these creatures?" he demanded. "How can they do this?" His intelligence officer stood beside him, looking at a data screen. The officer was old and experienced. He had studied every species the Dominion had ever conquered, but what he was seeing now made no sense. "They should not be able to do this," the officer said. "They are physically weaker than our soldiers. Their technology is less advanced. Their numbers are smaller. By every measure, they should have lost hours ago." "Then why are they winning?" The officer pulled up files on Earth. He read through human history. He looked at their wars, their battles, their struggles, and slowly his face grew pale. "They have been fighting since they first became intelligent," he said. "Not for hundreds of years, not for thousands. For 10,000 years they have been at war with themselves and with their world. They have fought in every condition: heat, cold, mountains, deserts, oceans. They have fought when outnumbered. They have fought when winning was impossible." Shook his head. "Every species has wars in their past." "Not like this." The officer looked at his commander with something like horror in his eyes. "These creatures, they have a concept. They call it never leaving anyone behind. It appears to be almost religious to them. They will die before they abandon their people. They will do the impossible to save just one life." Looked back at the battle below. He saw human soldiers running toward danger instead of away from it. He saw them risking their lives for aliens they had never met. He saw them fighting with a fire that none of his soldiers could match. "What have we awakened?" he whispered. The officer had no answer. But both of them knew that this battle was already lost. The sun rose over Prime. Its light spread across the rocky plains, across the broken walls, across the bodies that lay in the dirt. It was a new day, and against all odds the colony was still standing. Commander watched from his ship as his armies retreated. They ran back to their landing zones, climbed into their transports, and flew up to the orbiting fleet. He had lost 8,000 soldiers in a single night. 8,000 of the Dominion's finest warriors, killed by creatures half their size. For a moment, he thought about continuing the attack. He still had more than 40,000 soldiers. He could still win this battle if he was willing to pay the price. But then he looked at the human, still sitting in the colony like sleeping beasts. He thought about the soldiers inside those ships. He thought about what they had done in just a few hours. And he gave the order to retreat. The Dominion fleet turned and flew away, leaving Prime behind. They did not look back. They did not want to see. Down on the surface, Captain stood on what was left of the colony's main gate. Her black armor was cracked and burned. There was blood on her hands that was not her own. She was tired in a way that went deeper than muscles and bones. She had lost 11 soldiers tonight, 11 names that she would carry in her heart forever, 11 families back on Earth that would get the worst news of their lives. She thought about each of them, who had told jokes even in the middle of battle. Park, who had a daughter waiting for him at home. Lee, who had been only 20 years old and had died saving a family of aliens he had never met. They were gone now, but they had not died for nothing. 30,000 civilians were still alive because of what they had done. Ambassador walked toward her slowly. The old diplomat looked like he had aged 10 years in a single night. His gray skin was almost white. His 4 eyes were red from crying. But there was something else in his face now, something that might have been wonder. He stopped in front of Captain and tried to find words. His species was known for their skill with language. They could speak for hours about complex ideas, but now could not think of anything to say. Finally, he asked the only question that mattered. "Why?" Turned to look at him. Her helmet was off now, and he could see her face for the first time. She was young, younger than he had expected. Her eyes were dark and tired, but still burning with inner fire. "Why what?" she asked. "Why did you come?" Spread his arms to show the destroyed colony around them. "We are not your people. We have nothing to offer you. We are weak. We cannot fight. We cannot help you in any way. Why did you cross 42 light years to save us?" Looked at the old ambassador for a long moment. Then she looked past him, at the colony he had spent his life serving. She saw civilians coming out of the bunkers now. They walked into the sunlight with wonder on their faces. They touched the walls and the ground as if they could not believe they were still real. She saw human soldiers helping them. Sergeant 1 was sitting with a group of children, teaching them a clapping game that human children played back on Earth. Medic Ben was treating wounded aliens and wounded humans side by side, with the same gentle hands. Lieutenant Ho was standing with a soldier who had fought beside him through the night. They were not talking, just standing together, sharing a silence that only warriors understood. "You asked for help," said at last. "That's enough." Shook his head. "I do not understand. Other species heard our call. They sent back their regrets. They said they were too far away. They said there was nothing they could do. But you came. How? Why?" Thought about how to explain. It was hard to put into words. It was something that humans felt in their bones, something they had learned over thousands of years of pain and struggle. "When we were young as a species," she said slowly, "we only had each other. We lived on one planet under one sky. We fought each other constantly. Wars, famines, disasters, millions died. Sometimes it seemed like we would destroy ourselves completely." She paused, looking at the rising sun. "But we survived," she continued. "Not because we were strong, not because we were smart. We survived because when things got bad, we helped each other. Strangers would risk their lives to save strangers. Soldiers would die to protect people they had never met. It did not matter if you were from a different country, a different culture, a different part of the world. If you needed help, someone would come." She turned back to, "That is who we are," she said. "That is what makes us human. We do not leave people behind, ever. It does not matter if you are human or any other species in the galaxy. If you ask for help, we will try to come. That is the promise we made to ourselves, long before we knew there was anyone else in the universe." Was silent for a long time. He looked at the humans around him. He saw them laughing with children. He saw them sharing food with families. He saw them treating every alien life as if it was as valuable as their own. He had thought humans were primitives, new species who had stumbled into space before they were ready. Now he understood that he had been completely wrong. Humans were not primitives. They were something far more dangerous and wonderful. They were what the galaxy had forgotten it needed. Within hours, news of the battle spread to every corner of known space. A new species had crossed 42 light-years in impossible time. They had fought against an army that outnumbered them 25-1. They had won, not because of superior technology or special powers, but because they simply refused to lose. Species that had never thought about humans before started paying attention. Species that had looked down on humans started looking at them differently. And species that were afraid, that had lived under the shadow of the Dominion for generations, started to hope. Maybe they were not alone anymore. Maybe there was someone in the galaxy who would help them if they asked. Maybe the universe had just changed forever. In the Dominion High Command, far across the galaxy, the report from Prime arrived on the desk of the Supreme Lord himself. He read it in silence. He looked at the numbers. He watched the footage of human soldiers fighting like demons in the night. And for the first time in 300 years, the Supreme Lord of the Dominion felt something cold crawl up his spine. Fear. Humans were coming, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again.